What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another NBA Rundown brought to you courtesy of Run Pure Bets and Run Pure Sports. And I am so excited today to have one of my favorite guests on, JSU. He crushes NBA on the DFS side, but did very good last season, giving out the bets and the winners on the sides and totals as well. So, JSU, so excited to finally talk ball with you. We were just saying we hadn't talked since the finals last year. So, how's everything been with you, and what do you expect for this NBA season?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, tough scene for JSU last playoff postseason when spreads Milwaukee Bucks somehow get there in the end. They luck out with a bunch of Kyrie gets injured, Harden in the very beginning. They end up beating my Nets, and then they go on to win the whole thing. And Spread puts out that video, just absolutely shoving me into the. I wanted to do that GIF with the coffin where they're just holding the coffin up, walking around like I'm in the coffin, and Spread's holding it up. It's like Spread, Title. They're all the Bucks backers are holding up the coffin like just as JSU's lying in it. But I mean, yeah, the start of this season, I think it's really interesting. I think first of all, one take that I've had to start before the year even started was I can't remember a time where going into the year, and maybe it's just been a while, but where in my opinion, the West is weaker than the East, just overall. Like
I'd say
taking
at the
every
top.
team,
I'd say at the top,
just
top four is a bit better.
yeah, it might
Yeah,
be. I just think overall though, the better teams are in the East. Like
yeah.
that's just how I see it. Like right now, to me, teams 1 and 2 are probably in the East. That's just how I see it. Maybe you think that the West is deeper in the mid-level range,
I
but
think
I
yeah,
think
I think they're like playing teams will be stronger than the East playing teams.
okay,
So like their
that's
bottom, their
fair.
7 through 10 is a little
That's
has more
fair.
depth. I would say.
But I can't remember when like the top couple teams weren't the West. Like we weren't
Right.
talking about the Lakers as number one, the Clippers, Denver, I guess to a lesser extent, but no Jamal Murray for a while. They'll be in it though. Towards the
Hmm.
end, they'll be in there. And then obviously you got Phoenix, but still, I just think the East is loaded up, especially in that top tier, like you said. And it's going to be a fun year. I got some takes on Milwaukee, which are going to be a little different. First of all, I was not on the Milwaukee bandwagon to start the year. I thought they were going to lose to the Nets, and then I thought they were going to lose to the Suns. I thought they were going to beat the teams in between. So, like,
Hmm.
I thought they, in the end, when they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, I thought they were going to win that and go to the finals and then lose to the Suns. I was wrong there. But I think this year, Giannis just looks better to me, Spread. Like,
Yeah.
I'm kind of stunned at how much better it looks like he's gotten from last year to this year. I don't know if it's just like because he got people like remember he got so much better as the playoffs went on. We
Hmm.
talked about this right before we jumped on. He got so much better. I know everyone thinks about the free throws and him missing free throws, but just his basketball play overall, I thought he got really good. He picked up some moves that he just like he started to like really master those mid-range type moves that he really really like worked on. You could tell he worked on it and he just mastered them. And it's stretching out now, right? You can tell he's worked more on his jumper, not just the free throw line jumper, not just the free throw, his one dribble now to kind of shorten it up so he doesn't get the clock out on the free throw line, but he's worked on his three too. Like you can tell he just looks way more comfortable offensively. It's not just about him getting to the cup and creating offense through him attacking. He is now like a full. It looks like he has everything to me. Spread. Obviously, he can still get better. Like he can obviously get better as an outside shooter. But teams are going to still give him that, right? Because if they don't, if they come up on him, he's just going to drive by him. So they have to give him something. And if he starts hitting those outside shots, I mean, good luck NBA because he's going to be impossible to guard. Like KD. KD is
Yeah.
impossible to guard because, and I talked about this, at every level, he has mastered everything. Like, the dude has mastered everything. He'll go in the mid range. He'll go in the post with you. He'll take you outside in the three. He'll go all over the court. He'll score in every way possible. If Giannis ever gets even half of that, he's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you have the elite athleticism. You combine that with what seems to be an elite work ethic, the way that he's constantly improving, right? Working on his jumper. So, big next 5 years for the Milwaukee Bucks. So Titletown's got to be pretty happy about that.
God, how good does Title run? Title, you run so good right now. I mean, jeez. Whew. All right, so the East. Let's
jump into the Brooklyn Nets. I wanted to. Yeah, we're gonna do a little. Let's do a little general stuff before we jump into the games tonight.
Yeah.
The Brooklyn Nets, to me, because I didn't think this vaccine thing was going to play out this way. I totally thought it was going to be bluff like Wiggins, and then right at the end, he'd come in. So now it seems he might not come back. I had the Nets. I thought that they would win the East with the big three, assuming they stayed healthy. I'm not sure they can do it with just those two, because I think you got a max salary spot just sitting there that could be helping all these role players that like Milwaukee, and we'll see about Philadelphia, but assuming they make that move as well. Do you think that the Nets are still the favorite if Kyrie Irving does not return?
So are they the favorite to win
the East or the title? I guess. I mean, they're still favored by title odds.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the Bucks should be the favorites. I think the way that team is shaking up. I mean, God, I hate to go back to the Bucks, but they just look deep too. I mean, Jordan Nwora, how is that kid not starting?
Yeah,
that dude is good. I mean, that dude is a hooper. He can hit shots. I mean, he's got a weird shot, by the way, but it goes in. He plays, I think, decent defense. I think he rotates. He rebounds. He does like all of those little things. You want guys that play with Drew and Chris and Giannis. You want the other guys to be the ones like kind of hustling, right? Spread, like that's how those guys are going to win minutes, like the Pat Connaughton minutes, where Pat Connaughton comes in and he does all the little stuff. He can hit the three, though. He gets hot from three. We know that. They need guys like that. Bryn Forbes would come in and he'd just be a spark where he could score 15. And it's like off the bench. That's great. That's something they need. Jordan Nwora, that dude could give you 15. Like that dude could give you 15. I think he's that good. And I'm shocked that he's someone they're not starting, especially while Dante's out. I think he should be starting on that team, or at least playing like the 6-man role. Now, maybe he will be the 6th man eventually, because I don't know how you don't play him. Like he's going to make it tough for them to not, I think, towards the end. Because if people remember, he was way on the back of the bench last year. Right. He barely saw it. He only saw time when it was blowout time. So I think he's someone that's going to be really interesting to follow. But for the East, I just think the Nets are the second team. I think Steve Nash is clearly behind as a coach, by the way. Like, that's one thing. Maybe he's frustrated with the whole Kyrie situation overall. Maybe that has something to do with it. He might be also trying to overanalyze matchups way too much, because you can kind of tell he's like still experimenting with his team. And eventually they're going to kind of have to narrow it down and let some of these guys go and maybe not play some of these guys like LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Millsap. I mean, Blake Griffin. Like, something's got to give. Like, all these guys can't play. LaMarcus Aldridge looked like he was struggling to just get up and down the court. What do you do? And then Bruce Brown was a guy who played significant minutes last year for that team and actually got really good in like that pick and roll type where he was hitting that little like bunny jumper because teams were just letting him, shoot that. And he got really good at it. Not a very good outside shooter, but like was one of their better defenders, in my opinion. Hustled, got rebounds, did all the little things, right? That you need those. When you play with stars, you need those guys. And I thought he made a lot of sense on that team. Then he comes out and he doesn't play. He's not a part of the rotation, gets in towards the end, but it's like, okay, like that's fine. So Bruce Brown's not in it. You can just tell Steve Nash doesn't know what to do. He's still confused after last year. my opinion, the team hasn't changed that much. Like, you still have the main guys like that you had last year. What are you doing? Like, I don't understand. So to me, I'm going to put the Bucks ahead of them, and then the Nets will be 2. But let's be honest, Brad, the Nets are 1 injury away from being just an okay to solid team. Which if one of
They're
those,
1 inch away from being last year's Warriors.
yeah, if Harden or
Just a
Durant
star
goes
that could go
down,
off any night, but you can't count on them every night.
yeah, if Harden
Yeah.
or Durant goes down, I mean that's it for like the championship aspirations, in my opinion. I think maybe one of them wins MVP. I think that's honestly something that I could see happening. Because think about it, spread. What if like 30 games in, their numbers are going to be great, by the way. Like even just together, they're going to have great numbers. But what if like 30 games in, one of them goes down, and the other one just has to do everything? So I thought James Harden, from a value standpoint, I think he was 40-1 or 30, or I can't remember what it was, but he had good odds on DraftKings Sportsbook, and I bet a little bit on him to win MVP because I'm like, this dude's going to give you great numbers night in and night out. Don't get fooled, right? Mm-hmm. And if somehow Durant were to go down or miss time, he's like going to do what he did with Houston. He's just going to do everything.
Right. I completely agree with you on Steve Nash. While I do feel that he has like the aptitude and the basketball intelligence, it's just a lack of experience. I mean, I don't think he was an assistant coach, right? I mean, a lot of these guys came in, like Kerr sat next to Popovich for years, right? Was with Phil Jackson. To bring in a guy completely unexperienced, which isn't a problem if you're, say, a Sacramento or Portland and you're trying to develop, but you got the short window with the Nets. I thought that was quite the gamble. So far, it doesn't look to be paying off. Let's go to the number 3 team in my mind in the East.
This is where we always disagree, spread. Just so you know.
Because what, you think it's Miami?
Well, I don't know. Who do you think first?
I think it's Philadelphia.
Oh, spread. No. Oh, this is going to be one of those things where at the end of the year you make a video of it if I'm wrong. But no, Philly. Oh, okay, wait. Who are you projecting for them to trade Ben Simmons for?
I'm not sure, but it's definitely going to be a huge boost regardless, right?
I'm assuming that you're projecting them to get someone for Ben Simmons.
Yeah, they have to, right?
Do you think that all this nonsense kind of hurts his trade value a little more?
Yeah, of course. But I think it was pretty much already as low as they can get. I mean, like...
Oh God, I love it.
The analytics guy
on a Thursday at 2:43 Eastern time.
We're already back in midseason form, just like the Bucks. We're right in our group. But no, I really think some of the analytics guys will already tell you he's a net negative contract, given a guy that can't shoot the max, right? Because you're basically just getting a huge defender and a guy that he excels in transition, right? But still, there's those issues in the half court. It's almost like with Draymond Green. Should Draymond Green be a max player? There's arguments on whether or not, he's a net negative on that contract as well. So when you have a guy that's a net negative, it's hard to hold out and think you're going to get all these draft picks when half the GMs are saying, I'd want to take on a draft pick to take on this contract. But regardless, they still will get some help. Embiid, right, has to be a legit. We talked about MVP. He's still going to be a legitimate MVP candidate if he stays healthy. And I still do like their cast there. And I think it's just who else would you put in there? I think Miami would be the one that I would say has the claim for that number 3. But I think after those 4 teams, there's a bit of a fall off here. Who would you say was the third best chance?
Well, what about the Celtics?
I don't know.
I kind of like the new coach.
I do too.
I kind of like him. I want to give him a shot. I think he's got a shot to be pretty good. And I think with that team, they needed a fresh look anyways. You could tell with Stevens, they needed one. The question with the Celtics are going to be, I think they have the pieces to be a very good defensive team, which is good when it comes to playoff time. You having the flexibility to be able to, put Tatum on KD, and then maybe Brown gives KD what he can get, and maybe Smart gives him a little, bully basketball, and you can kind of rotate those guys. I think they have pieces like that. Then they got Robert Williams, who kind of knows his role, can control the rim a little bit. I think he's a very talented player, by the way. Like, Dennis Schroeder, who's more of a scorer now, but he can lead. He's a decent player in my
So
opinion. Who
Schroeder's
can
my
give you a
issue with the
bucket.
Celtics. To me,
Why?
they have to make a move. I don't want him in my closing five.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
So
fair.
they
I was
need.
thinking
They're
more
like
of
this.
like a six. I was thinking more of like a 6-man who can give you
Yeah,
some
in a
buckets.
6-man role, he'd be awesome. But we need to get
Yeah.
one more. So I had the Knicks last night. That was a fun win, right? That was a nice one to cash. And when I saw Schroeder in that closing five, I felt a lot better about my chances because I knew where I could attack. Where before I felt that the Celtics could run lineups without Kemba, where it was tougher to attack certain players because Smart, Tatum, and Brown are all very, very tough defenders. Williams can hold his own now as well. So Schrader's like that obvious piece. So I'd like to see them. They're in that Sixers boat. We need one addition midseason. How will Stevens play as a GM? Hopefully he learns from. He had to be frustrated, right, with all those assets sitting there and Ainge isn't getting him
Had
help.
to be. Yeah.
So I'm thinking that he's going to be more aggressive as well. So I could see where you
This
put the
team
Celtics
sets
in
up
there.
too to have a big three spread, right? Like
Yeah.
if they make a big trade, I don't know who it could be, but like this team sets up for, in my opinion, and you might have to give. I mean, I don't know. You might have to give away Smart, which I know Celtics fans love Smart, and he loves. I'm sure being here, he loves it, but at some point, it's like I don't know. That's the way the league's going. Really, is this just superstars? You need as many as you can, and that's the other question too. Is Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum gonna go into that superstar category? Like, can you get them into a top 10 or 12 player conversation? Both of them, because if that happens, I think the Celtics have a better shot than people are giving them. Just from
I'd say Tatum's pretty close already to being in that top 12.
No, I think Tatum is there, but is Jaylen there? And I know people are going to say, "Oh, did you watch last night?" I watched last night. I saw him.
He dropped like 47.
Game.
Yeah, and we all left him out of our lineup, so
he was great. I saw him.
Yeah.
Can he do maybe not that, but can he be a consistent, dominant player for the course of a season? That's what I'm saying. And then still affect teams on the defensive end. If he can do that, the Celtics have a shot because Tatum's there, in my opinion. And if Jaylen gets there, that's enough for me to say, okay, they at least have a shot. I'm not saying they're going to win, but they have a shot, right? I think the unknown is Miami. I want to see how all these new pieces fit. Remember, Oladipo's still out. He's been injured a bunch, but when he's been right, he's been a very good player. It's just, when he comes back, is he going to be that guy? We don't know. Kyle Lowry had one.
To be honest, all he needs to do is hold his own on the defensive end, and that's all they need from Oladipo.
But that was the question when he came back last time, and I think he struggled more. Yeah, he did. I mean, what happens too when you get those injuries and you push back, you lose athleticism a little bit. It just happens. Like it happens to everyone. What about Kyle Lowry though? Like, is he going to be like the pit bull from a couple years back, or is he going to be like last year's Kyle Lowry, which was very streaky in my opinion? Was one of his worst years. Is he going more downhill, or is this like a rejuvenated Kyle Lowry year where he comes in? He doesn't have to carry everything because he's got Jimmy and Bam, and they've got shooters around them, but he can still be the guy like controlling the offense spread, right? Because Kyle Lowry, he wants to be like the leader, like he wants to tell everyone where to go, get everyone in the right spots. He can facilitate. He doesn't need to just be the main scorer. Like this sets up for Miami to be a decent to really good team, depending on how all these pieces gel. That's the question.
I mean, they have the potential to have the best defense in the NBA, and that will be key because if they can pull that off, they can get through some liabilities. And Kyle, it's funny you bring up Kyle Lowry. Watching that Toronto game last night, so I missed that pick last night. Missed it on my best bet. Bad read by me. I said, boy, did I undervalue how much Lowry means to this team just from what you're talking about, the pointing out, the leadership perspective, right? Because from a talent fit, you would think, okay, like if I was doing TK style, like to move the guy into the starting lineup to replace Lowry didn't seem like that much of a drop off, but seemed like they missed some leadership last night. And we'll go deeper into Miami as we break down the game. Let's jump over to the West. I think this is a tough year. I think this is a tough year to figure out who's coming out of the West. This is the most wide open the West has been, I'd say. I can't even remember. Probably since San Antonio in 2009. I mean, the last 10 years at least. What do you think about the Western Conference? And I mean, how do they come out? I had penciled in the Lakers, but boy, the Warriors exposed some of their flaws. And that Westbrook edition, I don't know if that's going to work out, man. I thought that with LeBron's leadership, they'd be okay. But he single-handedly shot them out of that game on Tuesday night. Don't want to overreact to one game, but boy, that's the way Westbrook's been trending the last couple years.
Remember though, Westbrook has started slow a few years. We've
Every
seen
year.
it where it's just it seems like he picks up steam as the year goes. It's almost like Derrick Henry in football in past years, where it seems like, the later the season goes, the more he goes, like the better he gets and stuff. Like Russell Westbrook is gonna be better. The team is like, he's not a good fit. We all know this. Like
that's what I thought too. Because him and LeBron both need the ball.
Yeah, but LeBron, I think, Westbrook can't learn to play without the ball. I don't think it's possible. LeBron is good enough, if he wanted to learn how to do it. LeBron has the best basketball IQ maybe ever. The dude is a smart basketball player. That's one of his best qualities is he knows where to be. He knows where everybody needs to be on the floor at all times. That dude could play any spot on the floor and he'd know where to go, like the back of his head. He doesn't need the ball. He's just better with the ball spread. We're used to seeing him with the ball. He can play without the ball, though. Don't think LeBron can't.
But if I'm Frank Vogel, I want LeBron to have the ball.
Right? Problem is, then why'd you get Westbrook?
I know.
That's the problem.
I think they messed that up.
I think that LeBron's going to have to go to them and be like, listen, the only way this is going to work is, if he plays with the ball and I play off the ball, because Westbrook can't shoot and LeBron can, and LeBron can move without the ball. I know it's not ideal, but I think it's the way they would have to play in order for the Westbrook thing to work. Because I don't know what else to do. There's.
Well, yeah, I have an idea. It wouldn't happen though. It reminds me when they said this to Carmelo on the Thunder, right? But I'd say you run Westbrook as a sixth man. That's what I would do. I
run him off the bench. Oh, we'll see how he takes that one.
I don't think he will. But can you imagine him coming in with like 4 minutes to go and then just running the show? Stagger him with LeBron. You could still run him out there during some AD minutes, or just have him carry the team by himself and bring all that energy off the bench. I don't think he would buy in, but like in an ideal world, like a 2K world where I didn't really have to worry about personalities, that's how I'd run that team.
So, Spread, Blake in the chat says they should have got Hield,
I
not
agree.
Russ.
I agree.
Yeah. From a fit perspective, Blake is 100%. Take away who they are. Like, for a second, just take away that Russ is obviously here and Buddy Hield is not up here with Russ as a player. But just what they do and who would fit the team more, Buddy Hield is a way better fit. Absolutely.
He would probably average like 20 plus in like 20 minutes playing with LeBron, just because what is the only thing he does? He just shoots threes.
And
if you give him open looks all day, though, he'll make them. He'll hit them at 40%.
LeBron would get him open looks all game.
It would be amazing. Yeah.
Him and AD, the defense would have to give Buddy Hield open looks. Like they're going to try and slow down those two guys. And LeBron would just feed him. Yeah, he would get open threes all game. I agree. I think the same could be said, honestly. You know who needs to get a Buddy Hield? Philly.
Yeah, I know. And I can't believe they didn't do it. It's like they want the value, but if I'm in, the window's closed, bring him in right now. If you had Buddy Hield and Seth Curry, it would be stupid. Embiid would go from looking like one of the worst passers out of the post to one of the best passers out of the post.
And Tyrese Maxey is good, Spread. Yeah. Tyrese Maxey is a good young player. You can get away with Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, Buddy Hield,
and then put Harris at the
Joel
4.
Embiid.
Yeah, I love it.
And then you play, you got Danny Green off the bench who can give you a little run, shoot, play some D. Like, do it that way. That team's going to be so hard. You spread Joel Embiid out with shooters.
Yeah.
I mean, good luck when you collapse on Joel Embiid because those guys are going to get wide open looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you need to do. And that's what the Lakers should have done with LeBron is instead of going out and getting him another superstar, should have got him a guy who's a dead-eye shooter, a guy
Exactly.
who doesn't need the ball. Like he doesn't need the ball in his hands to create all game. But when you get him the ball, he can hit those open jumpers. And he could score if LeBron's off the court, right? Like if they had to run some offense through Buddy Hield while LeBron was off the floor, and for some reason maybe AD was off the floor, Buddy Hield could score still. Like he could still give you some buckets. Most of the time, though, we wouldn't have to worry about it because AD or LeBron are almost always on the floor the way they stagger the minutes. But I'm just saying, like, Buddy Hield's not a terrible player from an offensive standpoint. So I don't understand why teams don't. They're like some teams don't prioritize fit over actual player, and in my opinion, it's just I don't get it. Like, makes no sense to me.
Oh, I think that's because LeBron's the GM and not Rob Pelinka, whoever they say it is. And we talk about this with Carmelo Anthony. Why I think that like players rate him so high, but like analysts and guys who do what we do will kind of downgrade lineups with Carmelo in them. I think a lot of times they just go off like for Carmelo, it's like, well, he scores on me. He can score on me, right? So that makes him good because I don't want to guard him because he's really hard to guard, right? Same with Russ. They're probably out there like, I hate guarding Russ. Like I want him on my team, but they're not I think they have a tendency to overvalue players that really are individually great and can win in those ISO situations.
Spread, does it drive you nuts? Like when you watch games, do you turn on like the volume?
Half and
Like
half. It depends on my mood. Like last night I put it on. Sometimes I don't.
So did you watch the Lakers game 2 nights ago?
Yeah.
So like one thing that drives me nuts is Carmelo gets like an ISO ball and he does like his little like 2 or 3 dribble and then, just like shoots it right over the guy and mid-range jumper. It goes in. It's nothing but net. And the commentator just, oh my God, this is what he does. He's the best. I mean, you can give it to him anywhere. He's going to score. Yeah, we get it. He's still a negative on the floor. Like even with that scoring ability, that's telling you how bad. Like, God, it's just it's sad to say because Melo is a great player. He was a great player for a long time, but. Yeah, he can score. I get it. He can't do anything else. Like
he's also 37 years old. Like, 20 years ago, guys, there's no you wouldn't even think about being in the league at age 37 unless you were Kareem. And even then, he was barely moving up and down the court. That's why what LeBron's doing, it's like, you know me, I'm going to be Team Jordan until the day I die, no matter what. But as he continues, like when I watched him look so good in that opener, right? I mean, like. I got the game wrong. I picked the Lakers, but one thing I got right was that LeBron and AD were going to dominate, right? And I got that right. I couldn't believe how little contributions they got for their teammates because I made the bet. If you would have told me before I made the bet, hey, AD's going to drop 31 and LeBron's going to give you 30, I would have felt like, cool, I'm going to cash. I handicapped it right, and that was just that was just crazy. So after all this talk of their flaws and the ways they can get better, do you still believe the Lakers are the favorites to come out of the West?
No, I mean, I really like Golden State. I liked them before the game.
Okay, cool. I can't wait to get to the Clippers game tonight then.
I think that Jordan Poole, I thought he was great last year. And I think what we saw in preseason, what we saw in that game, especially in the second half, just reaffirmed everything. I mean, like, that dude is a bucket. I mean, if Klay Thompson comes back and is 75, 80% of what he was, this is going to be a really hard team to stop. You're telling me that you're going to have guys like Steph, Klay, Jordan Poole on the outer perimeter, just running around, running through screens, and Draymond's just going to be looking for whoever's open and feeding them. Like, good luck, teams like the Lakers who, are going to want to slow things down and not want to get in a transition battle, in my opinion, with Golden State, because that's where they kill teams is teams are out of position. They move in transition, and that's where Steph gets a ton of, 3 looks is honestly in transition and where Draymond finds all these open shooters. If they're healthy, man, Steph stays healthy, Klay comes back. I don't think he's going to be – I mean, he had a ton of surgeries. He's probably not going to be the defender. I thought he was a decent defender before all the injuries. He's probably not going to be as good. But if he can shoot still – it's going to help the team. And I think they're going to be a really tough team for the Lakers specifically to stop. Like, I think they're a really bad matchup for the Lakers, which means I have to think that they have a really good shot to win the West. There's one or two teams that I think are bad matchups for them, though. And if they get into those matchups, I think like Denver. I think Denver's a bad matchup for Golden State.
Mm-hmm.
Jokic, that type of guy will destroy that team. And you're going to say Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is different than Jokic. It's totally different.
Way different.
Way different. And so that to me, it's for me, it's Denver. I really like Denver, especially if Michael Porter Jr. takes the jump and then Jamal Murray comes back at a certain point, which I'm assuming they won't rush him back, which is good. Get him back, a little bit before the playoffs, let him get the rust out, and then he'll be ready for the playoffs, hopefully. And if that happens, that team's got a really good shot. I mean, I think those are the two best teams. Then you can talk about the Phoenix and the Lakers. I think they're the next two. And then you've got the teams that are kind of outside looking in, I guess you could say. Memphis. I think they're going to be a really good defensive team.
You hate Rudy. You haven't even mentioned Utah yet.
Yeah, because
you took Memphis over Utah.
They're not going to win spread. They're not going to win.
No, I have to agree with you there.
And they're not. And they're not a team on the outside looking in spread, which is the difference. So, for me, Utah falls in that boat with Phoenix, the Lakers, Denver, Golden State. They're all in that boat. I think they're the clear top 5 teams. And then you get to the teams like Portland, who I don't think can win. Sorry, Dame, but it's not. They're going to try and switch to spread. Good luck. That's not going to work. I don't think it's going to work. Defensively, they're changing up their defensive strategies. I don't think it's going to do very much for that team just because they're not going to be able to handle it. And Dame's going to get pissed off after they lose a bunch of games, and that team's going to go down. But I think Minnesota could be sneaky, not to win, but to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Edwards looks legit. I don't know. I mean, my 2 picks though, I think Denver and Golden State end up 1 and 2 and play for the chance to go to the finals. And I don't know why, that's the problem is I get into a spot where I think Denver in that matchup is honestly better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about the matchup for me. If I could get the Lakers and Golden State in round 2 and Denver faces, maybe they get
Utah or Phoenix, most likely.
or Phoenix, I think they've got a good shot against one of those 2 teams. And then they play the winner of the Lakers Golden State. And I think if the Golden State beats the Lakers, I think they could, then it's Denver versus the Lakers. So it's all about how it kind of shakes up. It's a matchup. NBA's matchups anyways. That's how I look at it. So it's tough, but I like Golden State. I like Denver. Those are my 2 favorite teams.
All right. Let me, I'm going to just comment on something you said, and then I have one more question for you, and then we'll move into tonight's games. On Golden State, I really don't know where to rate them, but one thing that I did notice in that first game is how much fit matters, and watching Bielika on that team, so important. Finally, the stretch big that you needed to pair with Draymond. The idea is he can defend in the post, so Draymond's not just stuck and anchored in the paint on the defensive end, but then on the offensive end, I want him behind that circle the whole time. So now I only have Draymond as my guy that, I have to ignore on the 3-point line. I could put 4 other shooters out there, which to me is so ideal, which I can't believe. I mean, he floundered on the bench in Sacramento for years, and I always thought he was better than he got credit for, but for him to come in and make an impact like that, to be fair, before we overrate Golden State, I do think that Lakers squad they put out there was not the best that they've seen. I think, Vogel's really in a crunch if he has to put Carmelo, Westbrook, and Rondo on the floor at the same time. I think any NBA team is going to score on that.
It must kill him to have to play Carmelo. Knowing Frank Vogel, it must kill him. I know.
It's such a tough spot. And then even with the outside additions, he's probably just what am I doing? He probably feels more like a babysitter than a coach.
And go back to Bielitsa, this, the coaching staff the coach just hated him in Sacramento. He never got a fair shake, in my opinion. It seemed like they hated him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how that happened. And everyone who watched the Kings that was real fans like us was like, he's better than Bagley. He should be our starting four. He fits perfectly next to Holmes in the ways I just described with Draymond. But that's Sacramento for you. So all right. So that's pretty cool though. You did not pick the Lakers. You went out on a limb. You took to be fair, Golden State. I must be wrong on because they were the fourth highest in the championship odds, and I was really surprised. But a lot of sharp people, yourself included, I've talked to, really like their chances this year. So can't wait to see how that fleshes out. And of course, the
Who was
Nuggets.
your pick? You didn't say who your pick was.
It was Los Angeles, but boy, after Tuesday night, it's so tough. I mean, I guess I'll
No,
stick
you
with
got to
them.
stick with them. You got to stick with them.
I'll stick with them. And I also I don't want them to win. They're my least favorite franchise in all of sports
Yeah.
because they beat my team and they constantly steal all the best players from all the other markets, going back to before I was born when they grabbed Lou Alcindor from the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm glad they weren't able to get Giannis and pull off a coup 40 years later. Let's jump into tonight. The first game we got is one of your favorite guys, and I'm surprised he didn't come up in your championship conversation. But the Dallas Mavericks head to Atlanta to take on the Hawks. These teams will forever be linked. Of course, the trade for Luka and Trae Young on draft day has defined both of these franchises. But to be fair, I don't think neither is too upset with the way that trade worked out, as Trae Young really stepped up last year on the big stage in New York and cemented himself as a superstar here. Atlanta's laying 2 at home here. My lean or the play that I like here is I like Atlanta. And my idea is that Luka's probably better than Trae, right? Well, he is. But I think Atlanta has such a better supporting cast. I mean, Luka's just going to be carrying those people up and down the court all year. I mean, maybe Porzingis can finally make a leap. Second year off the ACL. Reggie Bullock, hey, that's a great addition. Who's the other one? Sterling Brown, right? I mean, nice glue player to try and win a championship. But I still don't think that Luka has that number 2. And I like that Trae's a bit. I like what they did. Sharif Cooper was a great draft pick there. He's going to come in and really help the scoring when he's off the bench. So I like Atlanta here, but I know you love Luka. Am I overlooking who could be the best player in the NBA right now?
I mean, listen. Let's be honest here. Trae and Luka. Even if you think Luka's better, like I do, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we're splitting hairs here. Trae is really
Right.
freaking good.
He's
So,
really
like,
good. Yeah.
I mean, and he's talking about how he's pissed. He watches all these shows, and they're underrating him. They're not giving him
Mm-hmm.
as much love. The team what they did, like I respect it. I love. First of all, I love guys that play with a ton of like heart and energy, like Trae does. And I mean, he's a small guy. I root for these type of guys. These guys that really because of their size. It's to be honest, when it comes to basketball and obviously people should know this, but when you're shorter, like it is a lot harder. Everything's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to get looked at. It's a lot harder to get a scholarship. Like to be his size and to be in the NBA, in my opinion, is already amazing on its own. To be one of the better basketball players in the NBA is unbelievable to me. And I think people don't give it its much credit. It's why I think Allen Iverson is the greatest player, in my opinion, I've ever gotten to watch outside of Michael Jordan. And I rank him that high because of what he had to go through in his height, his size, and how tough he was and the heart he played with. And I don't think people put that in the credit when they talk about these type of players. I mean, it's a real thing. And for them to do it is pretty amazing, in my opinion. So I give Trae a lot of credit. I think that he's an amazing basketball player, and he probably doesn't get the credit that he deserved for taking that team to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's probably right there, right, Spread? Like he
Mm-hmm.
probably didn't get the credit.
No, and even if you think about it, we didn't even mention the Hawks when we mentioned the big dogs in the East, right? And we
Yeah.
put Boston in there, right? Who fell out in the first round, right? And they're out there, they're beating these teams, and we skipped over them as well. And I would say he's right there, and we were wrong. We probably should have mentioned them. So yeah, they've got plenty to prove.
So what do you think of this whole narrative? So I was listening to some stuff, some Dallas beat writers, they were talking, and they said that with the new coaching staff and everything, is it Jay? It's Jay Kidd, right? I just want to.
Yeah,
I'm
Jason
pretty sure
Kidd.
it's Jay Kidd.
Mm-hmm.
So they were talking about, as a team, he wants to shoot less threes. He wants to get Porzingis established down low earlier, which is interesting to me because your offseason acquisition is to bring in Reggie Bullock. You have Luka, who just loves his step back threes. You got Tim Hardaway Jr. and Porzingis, who's really a stretch
4.
5.
He should be playing a Bielika style role. He should not be in
and
a 5.
Your first idea is to shoot less threes, get more. I don't get it. Porzingis isn't that type of player, in my opinion, unless you want to post up Luka, which, I mean,
you shouldn't be. You should only be doing that through the flow of the game. You shouldn't be calling plays to do that. Just a couple thoughts on that right there. Number one, either kid is lying because he said that, and then they shoot a ton of threes in the preseason, and he's like a weird dude. So I wouldn't think he's like, we can't give them our strategy. Or number two, you got to remember kids about my age, right? So he came up in the '80s. When every basketball camp that we went to, right, that's all we did, right? Like, first thing you do a bounce pass into the post, right? Everything ran through the post. So it's either, number one, he's lying because he doesn't want to give away a strategy, or number two, it's just like you grow up that way and you've been told it's the right way.
But, how could you even do that with the team you have established? Like, I don't even understand what you're talking about when you have Porzingis and you're talking about, getting the ball down low more and establish. I get what you're saying with the, growing up and where he played and all that stuff. But you got Tim Hardaway and you got all these guys. It's like, dude.
I don't know how good Kid will be. I hate to talk bad about these guys.
This is why I didn't say Dallas when we were talking about the West, because I'm legitimately worried that Kid is going to fuck this team up. I think Rick Carlisle is an amazing coach, by the way. You know this. I've talked about him many times. Coaching is a very big deal. And when these teams get new coaches, I honestly don't want to bet them or go heavy on them at first because I want to watch them play. So that's why I won't go crazy in terms of these newer coaching teams like Dallas, where I do like Dallas. I like Dallas. I like Luka. I think they're a really good team the way it's constructed. I think Luka could carry that team. I think Porzingis, if he could stay healthy, could be enough to be a secondary scorer and that team could win games. But at the same time, losing Carlisle is a big downgrade, and I don't know if Kid's going to be very good. So I'm with you. I'm going to take actually the Hawks to win the game. I do think that we see some nice back and forth with Trey and Luka, though. I mean, remember,
it's going to be a great game. I can't wait.
These two guys were traded for each other. Like Dallas could have had Trey. They decided to get Luka. It was a swap, right? Spread. It was a trade. Swap,
well, they got an extra pick, so I think that pick turned into Cam Reddish. So it's basically Trey and Cam for Luka.
Right, but I'm saying they could have picked Trey. You know what I mean? Like they didn't. Yeah. They traded for Luka. So it's a whole Luka versus Trey thing is just a thing now, right? I think these two guys go back and forth at each other. I think it's a very fun, exciting, close game. And what's the total right now? 224.5.
Yeah.
I honestly think it goes over the total. I like just betting the Hawks at -2, but if you wanted something else, I mean, I do think the game probably goes over that spread. Outside of that, I mean, I haven't looked at a ton of player props for this game specifically, but sure we could find an over for, I mean, I think Trey goes over, but 26.5. I'm not gonna bet that though, but I do think he goes over points.
Julian, we'll go over a DFS and we'll do kind of a preliminary core, not the official core, but a preliminary core, and ask some of these questions right at the end after we finish some sides and totals. So we both like Atlanta. I'm with you. I lean towards the over, but Atlanta was, an over darling in 2019, 2020, and then last year, 2020, 2021. They played a ton of unders. So I'm not really sure what to make of this team. I think the addition of McMillan and finally Capella coming back slowed this team down and increased the defense. And I think Trey's finally realized he doesn't need to go a million miles an hour. He can kill these guys in transition or in the half court. And one fun fact for you, JSU, before we move on to the next game. Jason Kidd actually scored lower than the requisite 700 on the SAT and had to take it 4 times before he was finally admitted to Cal Berkeley. These are the fun facts we get. And if you want to know another fun one on that, Kevin Garnett never intended to go from high school to the NBA. He couldn't pass the SAT. He was committed to St. John's. So this is the kind
I
of
didn't
fun
know
stuff
that.
that I remember from
I
being a
didn't.
young basketball fan.
I did not know this. We just got news though that dropped. Ben Simmons doesn't
Mhm.
matter today, but personal out for an undetermined period of time. I
Okay.
mean, if you couldn't just write like Ben Simmons diva doesn't want to work. Like he
Yeah.
doesn't want to go into work today. He's a diva. I,
Yeah.
I I will say too, I tried to warn all of the Philly fans and really everyone that was, we forget, but Ben Simmons was compared to LeBron James a few years ago. That's how good people thought he was.
Hmm.
And I tried to explain to people for years now, especially last year. I took hard stances on Ben Simmons. I was told wait until the playoffs, blah blah blah. Didn't happen. I don't know what else to say. I think people overestimate these guys that come in and they're 6'8" and they can dribble and they can do like they're like the point guard, but they're the size of like a small forward or power forward. And
Hmm.
people are just like enamored by these type of guys. And it's like, dude, this is 2021. We're
Yeah.
getting guys like this all the time in the NBA now.
Right.
Like Spread, I don't know if you realize this, but like look at Giannis. I mean, the dude is 7 feet tall and does what he does on a daily basis. We're
Right.
getting these guys now that are bigger, stronger, faster, and they can play all over the floor. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's like I
that's
don't
a
know
huge change,
why
right?
people
Like
are
when I
like
was a
that.
kid, they thought it was a big deal that like Lamar Odom and Billy Owens were 6'8" and 6'9" and
Think
able to
about
bring the
that,
ball up the
Lamar
court.
Odom. Yeah, like
Yeah. Now everybody just
he was
grabs the rebound and
good.
takes up the court.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he was good, but like
Yeah.
I mean, now we see it all the time. I can name out
Yeah.
so many teams. Like, look at Toronto with Siakam. Like, Siakam thinks
Yeah.
he's a point guard, takes
Hmm.
the ball and just runs down the floor. Like, it just all these teams now are getting to this. I like, and people are still like, "Oh, he's so good." It's like because he made a behind the back pass. I'm like, oh God! All right, people. Yes, he can defend. I understand that. So tell me more. Like, you need to be able to play both sides of the ball. You can't not be able to make a jump shot, let alone a free throw. Like you can't be a point guard and not make free throws, not be able to score at all unless it's in the paint. And even then, he can't do it because he's not the number one guy, and he never will be on just about any team that's decent. And if he is the number one guy, then he's on a terrible team, and he'll put up stats, but they'll never win.
Right. I read an interesting theory on Ben Simmons. The year he came into the league was the year that ESPN really took over the NBA contract and really wrestled it from NBC once and for all. And the idea was that the ESPN hype machine, because they just got this new contract and they need to get the ratings and the advertising dollars to justify it, put their whole hype machine behind Ben Simmons on the idea that they wanted everyone to be excited for the regular season. So that's one of the reasons that he was probably overrated by the general public coming into his rookie year, and really a tough position for him. I can understand why he doesn't want to come back. I disagree with the way he handled it. And let's move on to a game that I originally thought that we were going to be arguing about because I was really excited that you're going to come on today. But with the injury news, I don't know if I'm going to be able to jump opposite you. And I don't even know if you're going to take Miami. But I'll tell you what, originally, when I capped this game last night, I was planning on taking Milwaukee. I actually already have a bet in that I don't know what to do with because I can't even middle it. But then I wake up this morning, Lopez is out, Drew Holiday's out. I kind of expected them both to play. When I was capping yesterday, I was getting the indications that Holiday was going to play. He's not in there. Now I kind of like Miami in the season opener. It was as far out as Milwaukee minus 2.5 early this morning when I got up. Now it's Milwaukee plus 2.5 with the news. What do you think of the Heat versus the Bucks? Are the Heat going to get their revenge after getting swept last season?
Yeah, I mean, the Heat, they're a team that I want to be high on.
Right.
I want to buy into this team because I think they've got enough of the pieces when everyone's healthy
Mm-hmm.
to give a fight, to Brooklyn, to give a fight to Milwaukee, the Celtics, whoever else, Atlanta, whoever else you have. in that kind of top upper part of Eastern Conference. I don't know though, spread. Like, I feel like this is one of those lines where we got the news that's like shifting people more on to the Heat side. And it's like, I can get Milwaukee as a dog. It's a light. I mean, it's only 2.5, but like still, like, I think Giannis is good enough to go in and beat this new, Miami team with Chris Middleton. And they still got like decent pieces. I talked about
I mean, you talked
Nuwara.
about Nuwara. He should take the majority of the usage the Holiday's not going to get, right?
Well, I think it's going to be a mix. Remember, I mean, they got Pat Connaughton, they got Grayson Allen, who's a shooter. I think he fits really well in the team too. Like as just one of they lost Bryn Forbes, and you're going to say Bryn Forbes, whatever. People forget like Bryn Forbes in random spots would just pop off for like 15 and a quarter.
Bryn
Like,
Forbes was a huge regular season player.
Yes.
Because he allows Milwaukee to basically keep pace with the other team's second unit while Giannis and Middleton were resting. In the playoffs, you saw after game one, I don't think he played the whole rest of the playoffs, which was a good move by our favorite whipping boy, Coach Bud, right?
He didn't. But again, though, like you said, regular season, when you
Huge.
you can have a guy do that for you, it takes a lot of pressure off the Giannis, the Middletons, the Holidays, so to give them a little more time to rest. So I mean, I'm going to take the Bucks just because I don't know. I don't feel comfortable enough. I'm not going to make this like my main pick, but I will say if I have to lean, I'm going to lean the Bucks side. And I'm honestly shocked that the Drew and Brook news is pulling you off the Milwaukee bandwagon.
I feel that Drew is so important to their point of attack defense, and I feel that without him out there, it just causes so much for the rest of the team to have to do on the defensive end that I'm a little worried. That you're coming off a big win in Brooklyn, right? So they're already feeling themselves a little. I know that game was circled on their calendars because everybody thought that, you win the title and then you hear all offseason that you're not the favorite to win it again, and it's like, wait a second, So I felt that was a big game for them. A little worried about the letdown. Obviously, big travel from Milwaukee to Miami. And I guess I think that Holiday is that important. But, the fact that you like the Bucks makes me feel a little better about not trying to abandon my position, maybe. Because I was thinking I was going to have to try and get off in game.
Were you shocked at how many minutes Giannis played? The brother, Giannis's brother. They like him.
Yes and no. Honestly, I didn't really notice till you said it, but I'm like, he did play a lot, didn't he?
Like way more than I thought. I thought he was going to get like 2 or 3 minutes here, at the end of the first half, maybe he comes in for a quick defensive play. Like, I mean, you talked about Drew's impact on defense. Mm-hmm. Is this a spot where like Giannis plays more because of Drew's impact on defense? Like,
I would think so.
Need more?
From what I've read, that even though he has like all these technical liabilities, right? Because he's not really that fundamentally sound yet. Supposedly, Coach Bud and the team loves the energy. They just love the energy, right? He's just out there crashing, and I think for a team that can get complacent, we could see a lot, especially if they're feeling complacent tonight, coming off that big win. So, you like Milwaukee there? Okay, now I feel better. I don't need to get off my position. The game for tonight, and this is it. So I'm having so much fun flip flopping today. I might as well be be a middling politician here because I'll tell you what, I've really liked Los Angeles originally when I started handicapping this game. And now all this money's coming in on them, and I'm almost, because I never placed the bet. My idea was that everyone's going to bet the Warriors off how good they looked. I'm going to wait, and I'm going to take the Clippers. Now the money's coming in on the Clippers. This is down to -3. I mean, I'm off it right now, but if it drops to 2.5, I'll probably have to jump in on the Warriors. My original idea for taking the Clippers, and then you can, kind of critique my analysis. I thought that the Lakers were very old and slow, right? We talked about Rondo, Carmelo, and Westbrook all getting minutes out there, not the best defensively. I feel this Clippers team is the exact opposite, right? They're young and they're quick and they're not as solid fundamentally, but I feel that they keep pace with the Warriors' small ball style of play a little more, and I don't think that the Warriors' offense will be able to look as effective against these Clippers defenders. The question is, can the Clippers offense keep pace with Paul George, and then insert here who's going to be the number 2 on this offense? That was my idea on originally liking the Clippers, but I was thinking that I was going to get more points. I thought after that big win, everyone would be on the Warriors. Doesn't look that way. If Clippers stay popular, I might have to jump in on the Warriors. Why don't you lead me to the promised land here, JSU?
Yeah, I mean, the Clippers are still they're still going to be a decent team.
Yeah.
Paul George is going to be good. Reggie Jackson showed that. I mean, if he can do it in the playoffs, he can do it in the regular season. Like, he can be a scorer. Like, he could be the number 2 scorer on this team and this team be effective. I mean, the dude's shooting the lights out, really, honestly. Like, what he did last year was really impressive. And if Terrence Mann can kind of slowly take a little step, we know he can defend. The offense in the playoffs, it was great. Like, he had some really big games in the playoffs for that team. And if he can be the number 3 guy even offensively, or, somewhere around there, because Marcus Morris throughout a whole season, he's not gonna be able to hold up for a whole season. Could he give you games here and there where he gives you 20? Yeah, but it's not going to be consistent for sure. He's a little over the hill. Could Terrence Mann do it, though? I think that is the actual question, Spread. If he can, this team is going to be a good team. Mm-hmm. Not a great team, but a good team, a tough team. They're gonna play teams really hard. And, I think they can give Golden State everything that they can handle. In the end, though, I do think Golden State is the better team. Mm-hmm. But I get why you would kind of lean the Clippers here.
I just assumed I was getting more points. It was 3.5 in the morning. I'm like, this might be 4.5 by, 5. I said, I'll just wait. And the worst that happens, I can have no play. Money coming on the Warriors. If that trend continues, it might change my mind. So, all right, we're not really too good on that one. Why don't we do, we've been having a lot of good talk here. Why don't we do a quick core, help me out with the lineup here. Try and get me in the cash in the screenshot game again. So Travis, gave me a great core on Tuesday. Yesterday's core didn't do as well, but to be fair, we faded that Knicks Boston game, right? And it went to double overtime. I don't know.
So did most people.
Right, without that game going to double overtime. So I don't feel that like we did a bad job with our core yesterday. Sometimes these things just happen. So at first I used to hate these smaller slates. Now I like them a little better. I was telling Bobby Gomes that now, like these 11-game slates, it feels like when you go to that buffet in Vegas and there's so much good food and you're like, I can't eat all this. I mean, that's how I feel. There was so much value last night, so many spend ups I wanted, and I didn't want to throw like 20 lineups in. I just won one or two nice ones. So I'm kind of excited about this core, but I want you to kind of lead me through it. Who are you looking for here? Like, who do you think are the top spend ups, and then give us some value, and we'll try and give out maybe a good 4 players for the viewers to start with.
Well, I think the game that I clearly want to target from a DFS perspective is going to be the late game. Actually, the Clippers and Golden State. One of the things that I do like about these two teams is, first of all, the Clippers. Kawhi's out, Serge Ibaka's out, Nick Batum's out. They've already got a bunch of guys just ruled out for the start of the season. And you're going to say, oh, besides Kawhi Leonard, like, what are the other two? But those two are role players. They pick up minutes. So you might see bigger minutes for guys like Zubac at the start of the year. And Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson might be thrusted into bigger roles just because they have to. So I think the Clippers are a good way to go. I think Golden State has still got cheap pieces. I mean, Jordan Poole is still 5'5". That's a nice price tag for Jordan Poole. Nemanja Bjelica, if he gets 20-something minutes, like if he gets low 20s to mid 20s minutes every night, I'm going to tell you right now, he's going to be a good DFS player. Like he'll have games where
I can't believe that his price is still so low.
Yeah, I mean, I think the minutes could fluctuate, Spread, as the season goes on. Remember, Draymond played 30 minutes. Yeah. I think his ceiling minute is going to be more than that, obviously, right?
I think Bjelica's going to be in like a lot of cores until Wiseman comes in, and then they're dealing with that.
Yeah.
And then they're going to go back to the old development.
But also, too, Spread, like Wiggins played 26 minutes. He's not going to play 26 minutes every. The only guy that played, over 30 minutes was
Steph, right?
Steph. Yeah. That was the only guy. Actually, Damian Lee saw 29. Like these bench guys, I thought Otto Porter saw 12. Toscano Anderson saw 12. Moody saw 6. but I think he came in because some guy got a third foul or some guy got in foul trouble. I think he looked pretty good, by the way, in my opinion. I kind of like Moses Moody on that team, especially while Clay's out. He might not get minutes to start, but he didn't look bad to me. Iguodala's there, but he's Iguodala. He's not going to get more than like 20, 23 minutes a game. So I think we could still pick on some of these price tags. I wish that Draymond would play like, I'm assuming they're going to give him around 30 again. Maybe they give him like 31 or 32, like they try and slowly bump him up. They said he was going to be on somewhat of a minutes restriction for the first like week or two. So maybe it is just him playing 30 minutes. But he's always a guy. I mean, look at his stat line, like 6 assists, 6 rebounds, 6 points, 5 turnovers. But the guy just always has the ball when he's on the floor. He's playmaking. Like he's getting the rebound. He's what we talked about. He gets the rebound and he goes. If he can't find Steph right off the bat, he's running. And then he's finding shooters. So that's one good thing for DFS. So I'm going to be heavy on the Clippers side for sure. I'm going to play probably a Terrence Mann, a Reggie Jackson. The question for me is going to be which stud to play with them.
You stole my question. That was it. Who's the top spend up on this lineup? I see. Let's just we'll count Trey in there, so we'll cut it off at 9,000. So for the Trey, Paul George, Giannis, Steph, or Luka, let's say you can only fit one in there. Who do you think is going to be the best spend up tonight?
God, I mean, Trey is the best value at the top. I'll say that.
Okay.
Like I think he's clearly, to me, the best value at 9.1K. I think the overall scorer might be Giannis, honestly.
Okay.
One reason why I like him if he plays more of a center role in this game, which with no Lopez, I think he's going to have to. I don't think they have an option. Like they have the young kid, what's his name? Sandro Marmalekaville or whatever's. I can't say his last name, but you know who I'm talking about, right? So they have him. But they really don't have any other like big type players. Bobby Portis is out, and I like Giannis in the center spot. I like him playing the center role. They don't do it a ton, but I think
it's their best lineup. They showed that in the playoffs last year.
I think it's by far it, and I think that's where he's going. I think he honestly likes to do it. I just think it's probably a little tough on him personally to do it like every night. You know what I mean? But. I can't say his name. Marmalekaville.
Marmaleka is how I say it, but I don't think I'm doing it right.
It's not it, but that's how I want to say it too.
When we danced around this a little bit early, but when I'm looking for value, I thought that Nwora would eat up a lot of the usage that will be there with Holiday out. Do you agree with me? And at 3,700, is that worth a look, or do you think that I'm kind of being a little generous? Do you think the other players would just eat up the usage and he'll just bring the ball up and do things the right way?
No, I think he's going to be in play with the scoring that even Lopez scores for them a little bit. The shooting that Lopez brings, they're going to need that. So I think Nwora is a great play. I'm going to be heavy on him. He's for sure. I'm going to say I think he's a core play. I think Miami, by the way, plays faster. They played faster in the preseason with Kyle Lowry. We all know Kyle Lowry likes to push the ball when he gets the ball. I think you're going to see a Miami team that's different than a Miami team you're used to seeing. I think they're going to speed the game up a little more than we're accustomed to, which in terms would help the Milwaukee players from DFS side. Because, if Miami's trying to push the pace, then I think it could be more of a back and forth than people might be thinking. So I'm definitely in for Nwora. Put him in my core. The stud's going to be Giannis. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to play Giannis.
For a core, can we go Nwora, Giannis, Terrence Mann, Jordan Poole? That'll give you plenty of money.
Yes. Boom, right there. There's the core.
That's the preliminary core, right? But if you want the official core from JSU and the rest of the Run Pure Sports team, you're going to have to head on over to runpuresports.com, become a member, and I suggest you use the promo code GETBET so you have access to my plays, Tyler's plays, JJ's plays, the Sports Keg, Joey Works, and Score with These plays, all in one for one low price. The best bang for your buck you will get when it comes to sports gambling and daily fantasy information. And remember, this is JSU's preliminary core. I'm telling you, this guy's not going to stop working till the game tips, and even then he's probably going to start working on tomorrow. Okay, so this might change as the day comes out. Of course, you want to be a member so you can watch the final countdown. So we know what the NBA is famous for, and that's the late minute scratches, right? 45 minutes before the game. And that's why I hated when I was doing this full time and I was working at UPS. I couldn't play DFS because I had to be near my phone, right, for West Coast time between 3:30 and 4:15. And when I wasn't able to give it my full attention, it was just I was fighting against a stacked deck, right? But if you have the ability, and you have the monetary means, join Run Pure Sports, hang out at the final countdown, and you're going to be cashing some screenshots and throwing them up there like I did on Tuesday night. So that's a great core. And I think now it's time for our best bets, JSU. I'll let you go first. What do you have for a best bet for today?
Yeah, so my best bet is going to be Atlanta -2. I think Atlanta gets it done in the end, and they're the winner. So I'm going to take Atlanta -2 as my best bet. Also, too, in the chat, G-Sauce says, would you like Simmons in Dallas?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't, and here's the reason why. I think Luka, as good of a kind of off the dribble shooter as he is, he's also a very streaky shooter, and he gets into those things. Ben Simmons, I think, would fit in a Draymond role where you've got dead-eye shooters like Steph and Clay and Jordan Poole, and they're all Damian Lee. They're all spaced out, and he's playing. But he would need to play the Draymond role. And I don't even think people understand this, but what Draymond does and what Ben Simmons does are two different, very different things. Right? Draymond is literally, he's not even thinking about scoring. He is literally, all he's trying to do is get guys open and get open looks for them. That's all he's thinking. It's secondary him scoring. I mean, literally, there has to be a hole that opens up, like wide open to where he's like, shit, I can't pass to anyone for an open three because I have an open layup. Like, that's when he goes. Ben Simmons, he'll be aggressive. He'll attack the hoop at times. Like, he's not sitting around, setting screens for others and just have the ball and waiting for guys to get open. Draymond will just wait. We see it with Juan Toscano-Anderson, actually. He's like trying to be Draymond when Draymond's not on the floor, trying to do the same thing where when he gets the ball, he's just looking for Steph. He's like, where can I find Steph? I got to find the open guy. If Ben Simmons could ever learn that and be patient like that, he could thrive in a place like Golden State. If they obviously they would have had to get rid of Draymond, though. I don't think those two work together. I think he would need to take over the Draymond role. One other place I think he would thrive is Portland, because again, it would take the ball out of. Maybe you could play him at the 5 some when Nurkic goes out too, which I think would actually work.
It'd really work.
But you could also take the ball out of Dame's hands and let Dame play off the ball a little. He moves really well without the ball. And I think Ben, if he plays like a Draymond style, could really get him open looks and make it a little easier for him so he's not always handling the ball. It's similar to what CJ does, but CJ will just take the ball and attack, whereas Ben Simmons will take the ball and try and find open shooters and play make. But in transition, Ben will still look to get his, where in transition, Draymond is looking to find others and set them up more. I don't think Ben does that as well as Draymond. And I've said this for years, and people are like, oh, you're crazy. I'm like, no, you just don't get, like, they're two different players. Draymond averages like 8 points a game. Like, you don't do that when he has the ball that much unless you're literally just always looking for people open. Ben doesn't do that. Ben finds people open through transitional basketball where guys are filling lanes and he's making the crazy passes. Draymond's not like making all these crazy passes. He's just making the open read when guys get open, which is
Right.
like, he's like, if you guys move around enough and create enough motion, eventually someone's going to pop open and I will find you. Whereas Ben is finding his assists through the flow of transitional basketball, pushing the ball. It's very different.
Yeah, I would say that Draymond uses more intellect and Ben is more instinct, which is why Ben does really good when things are going crazy, and Draymond's just really good at pinpointing how a half-court set's supposed to work. Julian, thank you for reminding me. I knew we had to get back to it because we do have to ask JSU this one. So we're talking about spend-ups again. We already said we like Giannis the best, so he took Giannis out of there. Of the remaining few, we have Curry, Young, and Luka. Who do you think would be the best to fill out Julian's lineup?
So, Julian, I'm assuming that you have the money to spend for any of these guys because they're different price tags.
Right.
I mean, Trae Young is 9-1, and Curry.
Yeah, he's
and
got the money
Luka,
left. He said he was on the last spot earlier. He's on his last pick.
Oh, man, I want to say Steph because I do like that game a little more. But I think Luka, if you're talking about DraftKings scoring, Luka with like the triple-double upside that he just always has on a night-in, night-out basis, I think would be the lean. I would rank them if you have the money, though. Luka, Steph, and then Young. And real quick, I don't think people realize Steph Curry had like a triple-double or whatever.
Yeah, it was like 21, 10, and 10.
He had a bad shooting game from the three. Like he shot 2 for 8.
No, JSU, I might be having one of those big checks behind me if he would have made some of those at the end. Because when I did like you guys did, I didn't log in until about 2 minutes ago of the last game.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, dude, I'm like 15 points out of first place. And I have Steph and he doesn't, right? And as he's missing those ones to end the game, I'm just like, oh my gosh. But now I see why you guys love it so much because, I can win my bet and I can win, like $500,000 in a night. But I mean, that's like, game changing money. Like I'm getting a second house if I win 250K, right? And I'm commuting back and forth, right? Like Mangone, you'll never know where I'll be. Yeah, it was really cool. So hopefully this core will get us there tonight. So thank you very much, JSU. You can tell we were excited to talk basketball because we stretched a 3-game slate into a 70-minute show.
Yeah, and I got a showdown show in about 3 minutes.
Okay.
For NFL. So guys, if you aren't signed up for Run Pure Sports and you want to, you play an NFL DFS tonight for showdown, NBA, all sports, one price. Check us out. RPS NBA 15 is the code if you want 15% for life of your subscription. As long as you get a monthly subscription and you don't unsubscribe, you'll get 15% for the life of that's your subscription. So check it out. RPS NBA 15 is the code. And I'm going to go do a showdown show with Big T and Tambo. Getting a text right now from the producer probably saying, hurry your ass up.
Yeah, so where are you?
Let's get on out of here. Good luck, everybody.
Thanks for hanging, JSU. Run Pure.